everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen. Now, we've got a big story to go into. We've talked about gold and silver many times in the past, and there is yet another big sell-off and buy-up going on as we speak. And as the headline shows on Zero Hedge, world's second largest stockpile of gold leaves the United States. So, John, can you go into what's going on here? I mean, this is more evidence of nefarious activity, to say the least.
Well, what's going on there is actually the Germans are way ahead of time taking out a lot of their gold. And what is happening, they just recently pulled out $13 billion worth of gold. Now, $13 billion worth of gold is 10,607,000 ounces, which is then 339 tons of gold that just left the Federal Reserve vaults. And of course, this is the move that's been going on all the time with Germany. They wanted to repatriate their gold, but of course, they put a lot of speed. They're actually 4 years ahead of time, and they're almost at their goal right now. And of course, we heard, Germany talk about how people need to prepare more, have their 10 days of food supply and so on. And of course, how they beg NATO to, protect them and all this. So who knows what they're preparing for down in Germany? They're in the Fourth Reich during with the European Union and everything.
Well, what do you think is the agenda that's playing out when we see places like Russia and China buy up so much gold? Canada sells off all of its gold. The U.S. is selling off tons of gold. I don't know where they really have any huge gold reserves.
Nobody really knows what the real gold reserves of either the United States or China is. We know that China is way more than it actually has. With the United States, there's no real, anybody that I actually know exactly. Yeah. Of course, there's people that says that they've been there and seen the actual gold and said that, oh no, there's plenty of gold at Fort Knox. And then you got the people that says that there's nothing there.
People can say whatever. We need evidence.
We want evidence. Let's have President Trump open up Fort Knox and let's see what's going on in there.
Yeah. He might be able to decorate his home a little bit better too.
Yeah, there might be a lot of interesting things there. Maybe we find Krugman's little minion in there or something like that. Some kind of weird creatures running around.
Half Krugman, half Golem or something chewing on the gold.
No, but let's get back to the serious part of this, which is definitely that Germany is pulling it out because they're afraid that the United States is going to happen something there. And they see huge counterparty risk of having their gold stored at the Federal Reserve at New York, which should be very, very secure.
Sure, but is it really helping them to be storing it in Germany either? Because, I mean, Angela Merkel, for one, doesn't seem like much of a fan of gold. She seems to be over-the-top central planner. She loves central planning.
Yeah, but you could understand. They understand gold, most of these guys. They're not stupid. Most of these guys are not stupid. They might portray themselves as really ridiculously moronly stupid.
Yeah.
But I don't think they are that stupid. If they are, then, goodbye to the country. Well, for example, Bill Murneau, we had a little chat with that guy.
Yeah.
And not too much intelligence came out of his mouth. And looking at the budget, how the guy runs the Canadian budget.
And Bill Murneau actually just met with Donald Trump alongside Trudeau and Harjit Sajjan, who we also confronted. That's another story. But, I find it really interesting that, these countries, as you mentioned, they aren't stupid. But that leaves one other side to this. If they're not stupid, they're evil. And if you see these people that they're manipulating gold, these banks, Deutsche Bank, Scotiabank, HSBC, PNB Paribas, so many others, the Bank of America, they're manipulating gold. They are changing the price, and we have an artificial, it's a bull market, but it's artificially a bear market.
Well, we talked about this with several people, with Stephen Kendall, with Rob Kirby, and a couple others.
Yeah.
Where we talk about the crazy manipulation that's going on with the amount of fake paper gold that's out there versus actually the real amount of physical metal that it's backed by. It's just out of hand. Like, I think it's 400 or 500 somewhere that the current ratio is. So that would be like only 1 out of 400 people that hold that gold would actually get it, which is insane. And that's how they actually manipulate this. They do these sell-offs, naked short selling and so on that they call it, and then they bring the price down when they put it out. Like as we discussed with Rob Kirby, and we mentioned it before, they sold 3 years worth of supply in only 5 days. of paper, not of course physical. They never really sell physical. So
No,
this
the
is a
IOUs.
physical move. Like the German repatriating the gold, that's actually a physical move, one of the few physical moves that are out there when the actual countries, want to repatriate something.
I'm going to take a wild guess, and I know a lot of our viewers are thinking, this is a power shift. And it's on top of everything that you mentioned there. I believe that this is a power shift from the west to the east. For example, I mean, we found recently the CIA was involved in manipulating France's elections. They've got their tentacles in basically everything around the world through the United Nations, through these central banks. And it's hard to believe that this shift is happening without it being a power shift, without it just... I mean, I know a lot of it is about them saving themselves, but why are they saving themselves and the U.S. is not? Because they are trying to push towards the East, this Eastern model, this more totalitarian, more collectivist model. The U.S. is one of the most totalitarian governments in the world if you consider what they've done around the world. However, the ideology out in the East is far more subservient rather than, to an extent or to a degree against collectivism at its largest extent in the U.S. But, I mean, in Europe, we see so many people that are, like in Germany, in France, in Britain, except for, recently with the Brexit vote. But for the most part, people are over-the-top collectivists. They love government. They love manipulation. They love central planning. And the U.S. loves this as well, but they haven't been able to get to the extent that Europe has gotten. And it seems like they're just trying to push everything in Europe's direction, and they want to create that European model in the West, whether or not Trump agrees or disagrees.
Well, we discussed the plan with Rob Kirby and others, and I gone through, the documentation of the creation of, the special drawing right world currency that they want to create it as. Of course, now IMF is holding its own gold, and I think it's a positioning game that's going on right now with all these countries repatriating their own gold.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is they want to, have something to say when the special drawing right is coming out, and they want to have X amount of power, when they go to the table. So, for example, Canada is gone, basically, when this will happen. I really hope we can stop it, but I think they're going to really, really push hard. And I think the date, when I look at all the predictions on different things, for example, cashless societies, there's lots of talks in Scandinavia. 2020 is the big goal for a lot of these nations to move to a cashless, but then I think 2020 to maybe 2022 23, like around there, or even at 2020, if people are and nations are moving to that cashless society, what they can do then is implement, go in and then sucker punch everybody, and they could do this two ways. They could either have a full fiat, or they have gold, right?
Yeah.
That they can back into the special drawing rights. And, of course, you buy shares with your gold on how much power you will get in a new global government.
But with that said, we can never underestimate the power of the individual. No. For example, Agenda 21 was supposed to go through by the year 2000. And look, now they've pushed it to 2030, Agenda 2030 at the United Nations, because there wasn't enough acceptance on a wide scale of this agenda.
No,
so
it's a slow drip process.
So, we could also say that, obviously, the cashless society is a huge danger. It's a prevalent danger, and it is a concern that we will have to face eventually. But I do believe that if people are loud enough, that this can be pushed off long enough that it becomes that of only legend, or that of only myth. And I think that if people are strong enough with their voice and with their ability to learn about these kinds of things and spread that information, I think that we might actually be able to dodge it. However, the way it's looking today, by the standards we're looking at today, you're absolutely right. I do think that it could get to that point by 2020, 2022.
Yeah, I really hope it's not. But the thing is, what we need to understand is the both sides. The huge push from the collectivists on the one side with the United Nations and their world government.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the populists, the nationalists, the libertarians, the anarchists on the other side, wanting freedom back and very little government, almost no government on the other side. So it's a huge pull, a huge rift, basically, in the world right now, where you have the collectivists on the one side and the individualists on the other side. And we just need to be constantly out there educating people and talk about this. How about we have a march for stopping a cashless society instead of these crazy liberal women walking around there. Some of them with yelling Allah Akbar, which is so
not
against
exactly,
women's equality when you look at what especially the Sharia law is all about.
False narrative of victimhood based on years of being told you're a victim in order to create more of a cultural Marxist society. But let's just finish this off by quickly going into why it's so important, John, to allow individuals to have gold in their hands and shift from that collectivist push, that central planning push, to the individual instead, so that they can protect themselves and their families from the inevitable crash, which will happen whether it's in a week or in 5 years. It will happen because all fiat currency eventually reverts to its natural value of zero. Let's just kind of go into the value of the preservation of value behind gold and silver and why it's so important.
Well, over thousands upon thousands of years, 5,000-6,000 years, gold and silver, especially gold, were money. They used to, use it as trade. And of course, over time, humans made it into, weights and then coins and so on. But what it really is, it's just a wealth preservation and an insurance that you take care of yourself with. And you don't really care about it. Like with me, I put it in my vault somewhere and then I forget about it. Well, I know what's there, but I don't really think about the price whatsoever. It's my way of understanding that this is one of the ways that I need to preserve my wealth, and I'm gonna live for a long time, and we're really on overtime in this fiat cycle that we're on. So I know it's for sure gonna happen in our lifetime, 100%. So we need to understand this and prepare ourselves and be knowledgeable about that gold has this role in society. Now, on the other side, people say that gold is just to enrich people, enrich and make the rich richer and have more control. Now, we are not talking about giving the gold to all the rich people. We're talking about actually everybody keeping their own gold and so on, just as a preservation of value, because we know that when you give the power to print money and to go into debt for any person, it's very easy to misuse that and destroy the system in itself. It doesn't matter how much of a great intent people like even Donald Trump is with this. I think, it's a lost case, unfortunately. It's something that we just should face. I think United States and all the other nations out there should just declare bankruptcy and say, like, we're never going to be able to pay this debt back. Let's start from scratch, but let's start with a system, not the special drawing rights system that these corrupt world banksters and political elitists believe in. But let's start with a system of voluntary currencies and money
competing
and trade.
Currencies,
Exactly. It's so important.
And I just want to point out two things that I want to point out before the end of this video, because we always get comments. First of all, yes, people have been saying that the dollar will crash for a long time, and yes, in a lot of cases they've been wrong, though they've been right by fundamentals. But we have to remember that fundamentals are off the table with this quantitative easing and currency manipulation madness.
Crashed.
Yes, it will eventually happen, but of course manipulation has put it off for a lot longer than it naturally would have fallen. But and number two, I wanted to mention that there's always comments as well about you can't eat gold. Well, this is just part of the puzzle. So it's about individualism, personal responsibility, and being able to protect your family. So that goes for defense, that food and water, being able to sustain your own life. That's
number one before gold, by the way.
And there's shelter, and then of course gold and silver, sound money, because you will need something to be able to trade in the long run, because as a lot of people have mentioned, you take one of those things away and the others fall. So you take defense away and then you're gathering stuff for the toughest guy on the block, basically. You take food or water away, you'll die. You take shelter away, you'll die. You take gold or silver away, and then you won't be able to actually trade for things or barter for things, though you could trade goats and stuff.
Or you could position yourself at a better place after the remnants of it, because we know there's wealth transfers every single time this cycle happens. And when you're positioned on the side of the gold trade, when gold becomes overvalued at one point, that's when you actually, of course, you don't put all of your money into it, but it's very important that you have a decent amount of gold, because at that time you're a huge winner. And we've seen this. I talked to people that have lived through hyperinflationary scenarios in Weimar Republic, in Yugoslavia. They say like people that had gold, they became very, very wealthy when they actually when the collapse happened.
Of course, because the paper becomes wallpaper, something to burn in the furnace, something to sweep into the gutter. It becomes totally worthless, so you can keep as many bills as you want under a mattress, but when the dollar crashes, that won't make a difference because it'll be worth nothing. So, be weighed by the value of the weight, and people will be able to buy little rations of little bits of food and bread lines. That's a serious problem.
This is the final thing that I'm going to say. The importance is to buy gold before you can't buy gold anymore with your fiat.
Absolutely.
That's it, because at one point there's going to be no fiat that will ever get you gold.
No, exactly. So, closing this off, thank you very much, John. You can check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated. And I will see you in Acapulco, Mexico, from the February 21st until March the 2nd. I can't wait to join you guys out there. If you're going out there, if you're headed out there, I think you still have a chance to quickly buy some tickets. So if you check in the description and the comments for the reference link for Acapulco, you can save 10% on your tickets at Acapulco by typing in promo code WAM. That's WAM. I hope to see you guys there. Thanks again, John. And we'll get back at you with much more. This is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth,
be the change.